things that might have been hidden or they were lost somewhere in translation. You have to remember that when a lot of the martial arts came to the United States, it was just after World War II. And there were two things that happened at that time. Number one, the serviceman didn't speak fluent Japanese, and the Japanese person did not speak good English. So there was a lot lost, I feel, in translation. There also was the fact that we just finished a war with that country, and we killed a lot of people there. And a lot of things that they were doing behind closed doors were not taught to the Americans. I have since been involved in a study with several people on things that take place behind closed doors, and I want to share them to you. What I really want to do is share my ideas and add it to what you're doing. What anybody is doing, I might have a different version, and that's basically what I'm after, to see that you get a different idea and can add pressure point work that I get involved with to your martial art. Pressure points, or acupuncture and acupressure, are a part of your katas and their forms. But you do not have to be doing a kata or a form to know pressure points. As long as you know what they do and how they control the body, then we have our study complete. What I want to do is show you the 6 points that we'll be working with. And I'm going to get Mr. Ron Richards up here to assist me. But the 6 pressure points that we primarily work with are located along the arm as such: 2, 4, and 6. And as I show the pressure points, I will constantly refer to those areas. When you do any of your striking in the martial arts, you should be striking to those pressure points. I would like to add at this time also that you shouldn't be doing this at home without proper instruction and or guidance. In the course of my study, I have been involved with acupuncturists, acupressurists, and several medical universities. You have an energy that flows through the arm in this manner. And the energy flows south along the small bone of the arm. As it gets towards the little finger, it turns and comes across the hand. The energy then goes back on this side of the arm. The reason I explain that is because we stop the energy. And as we stop the energy, the only place that the energy can be controlled and or stopped is at a pressure point. And the pressure point will stop the energy flow and allow various things to happen to the person's body. For instance, a lot of people have found that the pressure points on the wrist, because they grab somebody and they're on the wrist, so they're naturally on pressure points. But unless you know and understand that they're pressure points, a self-defense situation that's simple might not work. For instance, let's say he grabs me, and I go on these 2 pressure points. I can get him off me and put him down by using these 2 pressure points. But if I do not know they are pressure points, and in a panic situation, let's say a young girl is working in self-defense in the school and she's grabbed, and she doesn't know that she's to go for that area all the time, and grabs the forearm where there are no pressure points, the same technique will not work. You must get on the pressure point that controls the wrist and the fist. And as you get on the pressure point, that's where your area of concentration with the fingers must be. And then you get on the pressure point, and your opponent will go down. The pressure point right here is 1/2 inch up from the wrist joint. That particular pressure point controls the wrist and it being firm. If someone has a good firm wrist, and you try to bend that, you try to bend their fist, take their fist, hold the arm, and try to bend it, If they're a very strong person, you're not going to bend it because the energy flow is coming into that hand. Yet a simple thing that you can do using the bone along the thumb is just catch the bone into the pressure point. That stops the energy, and you can bend someone's wrist very simply. Now what happens is there is also electricity that flows in through that pressure point, and you send an electrical shock up your opponent's arm if he tries to resist. The next pressure point is all the way up here, right in the middle of the bone. The best way to describe that pressure point, on every person, this pressure point by the wrist is always 1/2 inch up from the wrist. This pressure point is where this muscle ends in the forearm, or most of the time dead center on the forearm. That pressure point also stops the energy. Get a good tight wrist. It also stops the energy from getting into the wrist and allows me to bend my opponent's wrist. This one and this one control the wrist and the wrist because the energy is flowing in that direction. The pressure point on this side of the arm is always opposite the other pressure point. Always directly across from it. Always directly across from it. This pressure point controls your opponent keeping a fist. If he has a tight fist, and I even rub in this manner, and the manner of rub should be towards me, but as I rub in this manner or hit towards my fist, the fist would open up. This pressure point also controls your opponent keeping a fist. I just feel that in fight situations, I'm sure everyone has heard of someone hitting someone in the face and breaking their own wrist or fist. I feel that they attempted to grab or even do a block on that pressure point as the fists were coming in, and if you were on that pressure point exactly, and you were on that pressure point exactly, not somewhere in between, you were on it exactly. If I did nothing more than hold this pressure point and my opponent hit me, he would break the fist. Because it would give, because the energy has stopped, the energy flows south, comes across the fist, and flows back. We have several tapes that we're doing on this subject, and I will constantly refer back to these 6 points because they are the most important points in the entire body. They are the closest to you if an opponent tries to grab or punch, and they set up body pressure points. If you know and understand these pressure points, then you can learn and know and understand body pressure points. You have between 500 and 700 pressure points that an acupuncturist uses. Acupressure, my particular part of the art, we have 275 pressure points that we teach to touch or hit, and your opponent is either temporarily paralyzed or could be permanently paralyzed or permanently injured. And all of these moves are hidden within the karate forms that are what we call traditional. This pressure point and this one, I've already told you, control him keeping a fist. When I hit towards me, you see the fist will open up. He has a tight fist, and I hit here, and the fist will open up. I am hitting this way to send the energy back into the fist. The energy coming down and crossing starts to head back to the arm, and I send the energy that direction towards the fist, and that's the result I get. I can use a person's energy, and you can send it 2 directions. You can send it back at itself, which gives you one result, or you can speed it ahead, which gives it another result. For instance, the energy is flowing that way along this side of the arm. When I do a technique aimed this way, I actually speed the energy up, and then it affects the elbow. So when I aim towards me, I affect the wrist. But if I want to do something to the elbow, I hit in that manner, and I hit into the elbow, and I actually rush the energy into the elbow, which will bend it. He has a straight arm, and I push that energy in to that elbow, I will bend that arm. Now, as I do the techniques, I'm going to be doing these on a lot of students. As I do the techniques, I won't be pounding or hitting. I just use enough that I know they're going to go. In a real situation, that would be a hard hit on the arm and a close for an immediate attack. I speed the energy up, goes to the elbow, I take it back this way, it opens the fist. All the moves that are so important in karate are not always the moves aimed at your opponent. Everybody understands a move aimed at your opponent. But they don't understand the moves in the forms, or just the moves that they practice, that are aimed this direction, towards your own back. The move this direction is sometimes more important than the move that direction. Every style in the world uses what we call shuto blocks. And I go out and I teach seminars, and I say, what is this move for? Why did your hands go that direction for here? Why did your hand go just to here and come out? Over the years, I've worked with 5 of the highest ranking people in Okinawa, 5 10th degree black belts. I've also had many fantastic instructors in the United States. On the video, I really don't mention one or give credit, because when you go through high school and you go through college and you get your degree or even become a doctor, you really don't give credit or say the man in 10th grade did this, the man in 12th grade did that. I've had too many instructors. In fact, to find out this information, I have been a student of the martial arts for 30 years, and I consider myself a student then, and I consider myself a student now. Nothing changes. I am constantly now learning. I am a baby in this art. This art of grappling that's hidden within karate forms. I'm a baby in what that particular move is even for. You don't always fully understand it. But I do know that when I go out to a seminar and I ask instructors, why are you going here before you do that? And they tell me that they're getting power. They're going looking for power. I'm getting power to block. Getting power to block. And the first thing I ask them is, would you ever use that move in a karate tournament? You're going to enter a tournament? They say yes. You're going to fight? They say yes. How many times during the matches are you going to go, yaw, and stop? And they say, well, not at all. I say, well, why do you do that move then? And they tell me, it's traditional. It's traditional that you do the move, but yet it has no application for fighting. I disagree with that. I have my own theory that I teach people. And I say it's my theory because I've gathered thoughts from many different instructors. Many different instructors, and put them down as my theory, and I actually lecture on this all over the United States. And my thoughts are that this hand coming back, whether it's just the one hand move, or whether it's the both hands moving, and coming to here, this is the most important part of the move, and I believe it was intended that way. You have to remember that the early on karate moves were developed by samurai. Samurais were killers. They were the same as our man out west. When Doc Holliday reached for the gun, he wanted to shoot and kill you. When a samurai went with these hands, he wanted to injure you. Now we have all read somewhere in our lives the techniques hidden within the form In Gichin Funakoshi's book, he says if you only know one form properly and how to execute it, you'll understand all the rest. But he says you only have to know the answer to one. In these videotapes that I'm working on, I'm going to try to help you with the answer. I would like to see the kata part of karate become more important than some of the freestyle fighting. And the only way for me to do that is to show you how these moves work in real fight situations and or could be deadly. Now I explain this, and as I say this, I say that every move in a kata or a form is to kill people. However, that is the end result. But jokingly, I mentioned it, and a little child heard me at one of the seminars and home and told his mother, he's just doing a basic form, and as he's doing the form, the mother said, well, what are you doing? He said, a kata form. What are those moves for? And he said, to kill people. Well, she got on the phone and she called me, and I said, no, Mrs. So-and-so. I said, they're not really to kill people. I said, that could be an end result if, in fact, that person stayed in the martial arts for many years, learned all the various pressure points of the body, and then could apply these moves exactly to them. That is the end result. But for your child, it's movement, it's balance, it's coordination, and it's angle and direction. So a lot of the moves that were explained to you as a block, I still explain as a block. This, shuto block, basic explanation. But in reality, it is an attack to the pressure points of the arm and a follow-up to the pressure points of the neck and or the body or head. This alone is an attack to the arm. This alone will drop your opponent or open his hand as I showed you. This alone sets up pressure points. Hitting one of these 6 pressure points in the arm actually take the nerve and fire it right up to the brain and or into the body through the sympathetic nervous system, so that when you attack body pressure points, they are set up for the attack by an arm technique. Now in the Orient, they have an art called Taiho Jitsu. Taiho Jitsu does a lot of work with arm pressure points. So when somebody shows you arm pressure points, they do not necessarily know all the pressure points of the body. All the pressure points of the body require a different angle and direction to attack them. And almost none of them are straight in. No pressure point is straight in. The body's geared for that. You see people do karate demonstrations and tighten the stomach, and they punch, and they punch, and they punch. No effect, because the move is straight in. But yet in our kata, we have all kinds of different angle and direction of which you would be attacking the body. Well, in our kata, the angle and the direction is the hidden move to get to those pressure points. And now that you open the door, you're going to open the door to a whole new world of study, because you have also read that martial arts are a life study. I've been involved with my pressure point study for several years now. It's even gotten so deep that I've been invited to major medical universities. My wife and I were at the University of Virginia. We dissected the human body, several of them, looking for the nerves, tracing them, and finding what we were looking for below the surface. That's how deep my study has gone. I'm now involved with a major medical university on how attacking the pressure points affects other parts of the body. Here in my home, Reading, Pennsylvania, we had 2 doctors in, and I knocked out several people 3 people, 1, 2, 3, with high-ranking instructors around the country as witnesses. One of the highest in the whole United States was there. The doctors recorded blood pressure, pulse rate. The blood pressure dropped considerably on the touch of the pressure point, and the blood pressure came back up as I restored the person's energy flow. We are going to do a major study and put it out as a follow-up, but we are going to wire people up, and then I'm going to do my knockouts or attacks to pressure points to see the end result. Now, just this move is attacks to the arm, this direction. So that's why the hands move this way. You're not getting power to block the arm. I mean, get serious. We're talking a samurai who was a killer, developed the move. We're standing here, we're going to fight, and he's going to attack me, and I'm going to go to here, and then I'm going to shuto block. Oh, what about that punch? Well, then I'm ready to go to here and shuto block. Do you really think he stood around and said, if he punches, I'm going to put my hands back here first? No. I believe, and again I say I believe it's my theory, but I believe it's attacks to these pressure points inside the arm, which will open the fist, set up the attack. So that's the meaning of this. We're going to show you that in slow, so you understand exactly what I did. He is attacking, and I must hit the arm that direction. And that's why you move this way. That sets up the pressure points and the nerves in the neck and the head to be attacked as a follow-up. And that's how a karate move could totally injure somebody. And again, if you ever do, you should receive proper instruction to do these techniques. Because you should never do the body follow-up, because it could result in serious injury. Everyone knows what hitting the eye and the throat and the temple, and they know kick the groin. But let me explain why I believe in the pressure points. There isn't a person in the world of any country that does not flinch if you go at his eyes. My gosh, the Three Stooges even do it. But you go for the eyes in any country. You kick the groin. Any country will do that. Any country in the world will do that, which means the groin is hard to get at. A person can block his natural weaknesses. And I don't call those pressure points, even though they could be as such, the eyes could be. They are vital points. They're different. Eyes are vital to him seeing. The throat is vital to him breathing. And the groin. We all know that they're vital. But a pressure point are in various parts of the body that can just be attacked. And it takes me half the time to get to them in a fight situation. He, my opponent, is more natural at blocking those. As I said, there isn't anybody who doesn't flinch and cover his eyes. There isn't anybody that doesn't move the groin. So if he can block those more naturally, isn't it more advantageous for me to attack an area that is just as weak? Takes a little bit of study and knowledge, but so does the martial arts. If he punches and or had grabbed me, I attack 1, 2, 3. Either one of them. Towards me, and then attack him. That no longer makes this a shuto block. It makes it an attack, with this being the most important part of the move. The 6 pressure points that we explained, there is a pressure point right here. Make a muscle. I'm going to try to define it, but it lies right in between these two muscles. It's 2 inches down from the elbow. It's right here, right there. That pressure point actually stops the energy from coming into the arm. The energy is coming in at this source. This is an energy source. And when I press this pressure point, I numb the whole arm. If I hit it, it will numb the whole arm. You can experiment with that one without grabbing other ones. But when I hit this, what result do you feel? The arm just numbs up. And people also say to me, well, pressure points can't be used in a fight situation. It's a bunch of hooey. Because a pressure point, a true pressure point, is only the size of the tip of a ballpoint pen. In fact, when we went through the bodies that we dissected, a large person's pressure point was larger. A smaller person's pressure point was smaller. And because of this study, the larger a person, the weaker he is. Pressure point works easier on a 6'4" person than on a 5'2" person. That's why you read in the past that karate is a small man's art. But the pressure point being the size of a ballpoint pen, I have an area of sensibility. This is sensitive. 1.5 inches around that pressure point. That makes it almost the size of a 50-cent piece, maybe a little larger than a quarter. If I were to take 6 quarters on his arm, you mean in your karate fighting or practice, you couldn't get right to a quarter each time? It's just that you have to know where to strike exactly each time and not be somewhere in the vicinity thereof. You're going to get right to that 50-cent piece to attack. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This pressure point will numb the entire arm. There's a pressure point that lies inside here that actually connects with this nerve and comes through under this muscle. So you don't want to hit anybody, make a muscle nerve, on this muscle. The muscle's there to protect the body. But right under here, right underneath this muscle, is a pressure point that actually controls my opponent's legs. When I touch this pressure point here, and I hit it towards me, my direction, you'll see the leg buckle, which puts him into, let's do it slow, and he's going to go along with it. He did with that one, I hit him on it. But this, I would hit into that, and would give me my follow-up for just this move in a kata. Just that move gives me my follow-up. If a person grabs me, isn't this a good self-defense technique? If I know he's going to drop his legs, he couldn't even hit with the other hand. And as I strike, he would be dipping down and into my oncoming attack. So what I'm trying to tell you is that this move is more important than that move. Okay, well, I need to go back. The moves in the katas that are simple and have no explanation is what I want to cover on this tape. All styles use moves that go like this, or go like this. They open their form that way. Some styles call those bows. That's because, again, my feeling, my theory, is there was a lack of communication and no reason was given for those moves. Every form, every kata starts the way a real fight starts. And a real fight started 1,000 years ago, the same way a real fight starts today. Two people right at each other's face, arguing, attacking. And how does a fight start? With a person waving a fist in your face, telling you what he's going to do to you. Or waving a finger in your face, telling you what he's going to do to you. Or pushing you, or grabbing you, and telling you what he's going to do to you. Sandy Comer. At Guitar. You have a pressure point that lies right here. Right here. It lies right at the bone of what we call the ring finger. That pressure point, when you grab the wrist pressure point, remember the wrist and the fist will then be controlled. So if a person's waving a fist in my face, telling me what he's going to do to me, you must grab those two pressure points. That's more important than this move. This move in a form, and you know, some people explain this. I love this explanation. I go out, what's this move for? And they tell me, karate is my secret. There's no secret. It's not a bow. You just gave the secret away if it was your secret. Karate is my secret, they say, is the meaning of this move. This is someone who is waving a fist in your face. This means that's where you push the pressure point. This means you pull him under your breast because that's where your most power is. Sandy, if she puts her hand against her breast and tries to keep it there and pulls towards herself, you can't pull the hand away or it's very difficult. The further away she gets from that area and tries to keep it against herself, pull towards you, I can get it out easily. You can try that experiment at home. Here is full strength. Move it up above. Here it's weak. And the higher you get, the weaker, and the further out you'll pull a hand. Right at the breast, the stronger you are. And then you won't move that hand. So that's what this represents. This movement of form represents someone waving a fist in your face. This is to remind you where the pressure point is that you're going to push. And make sure you pull your opponent below your breast to put him down. That means put him on the floor. So when you do this move, it doesn't make more sense to you, it makes more sense to me that if a move has a meaning, or a better meaning, then I try to find it. On any moves I show, if someone has a better meaning, I always tell them, show me the meaning. And then I'm always game to switch if it's a better meaning. I just get better results with students faster if the fighting and the self-defense come from the kata. I feel in this country there was a big separation. There was a lack and a big separation of moves in the kata. They start karate class, we do our workout. Okay, stop the workout, let's do our self-defense. We're done our self-defense, let's separate that and do kata. Then let's stop that, let's freestyle fight. If you believe in my theory, you'll find that the self-defense comes out of the kata and the fighting will come out of the self-defense and you'll be better. You'll know why you're in your stances. You'll know where you're going to strike to and you'll know how you're going to strike. Someone waving a fist in your face, when you grab the two pressure points that I showed you, 1/2 inch up from the wrist on both sides, like this, and you push right here, can put somebody down. The only thing you need now on a bigger, stronger person is to make sure that you get them to your breast even if you have to step in. If you're standing here and try to do this move at length, it might or might not work. But if you get them to your breast and body and do the move, so this move in a kata shows you where to push on that person's hand. That shows you where the pressure point is on that fist, and also a fist like that in a kata can represent, let's say they wave the other hand, that can represent, the fist can represent you grabbing that person. That's still a fist. So she waves a fist, the pressure point here with these two, and I always torque a pressure point. When I grab a pressure point, I torque. I make sure I'm locked in on it. And I torque the pressure point and push, my person goes down. Those of you that do a kata called basai and have this leap in it, I ask people what's that leap for, and they tell me they're leaping in, blocking a punch. They're leaping in, attacking an arm. Who do you leap in and block or attack from this distance? We got a big distance here. I don't leap in and block. I start that form and we go here, and the explanation that I get elsewhere is that that's coming in and blocking. My theory on it, and it's not my theory, it's a lot of people's theories. We have other people teaching the same thing. But I say my theory because I have my own version. Everybody has their own way they do anything. No matter who you are out there, we might have 50, 100 schools, you have 50 or 100 different styles. You pick up what you like and what you can use, and you go with it. So my theory doesn't correct anyone, doesn't say anyone's wrong. I just hope from the tape you get something you can add to what you're doing. But that basai move, where the leap in is an advanced move of that. Because if I step in, if I grab these two pressure points and push here and jump through that hole, right through the hole with my foot, as the move would be in the kata, I would go through this particular hole using my body below the crest. That's an advanced move which can break that wrist using my opponent's body weight to do that. And that's what that move is for. This move in a kata, people say it represents empty hands, not using my hands. I don't have any weapons. I bear no weapons. Everybody can see I have no weapons. If I had weapons, it'd be hidden. This move in a kata represents a person pushing you. And you put him down the same manner. And the person's pushing you, you can catch him from this direction, or you can catch him this way, or you can catch him this way. Again, taking these two pressure points, put the hands together, and twist. Everyone has seen that if someone puts their hand on you and you catch it here, that you can go like this and your opponent goes down. Everyone's seen that. All I'm telling you to do is angle and get on this particular pressure point. And angle towards that pressure point and your opponent goes down. But you must know that it's a pressure point. So this represents trapping a person who pushed you and put them down. The only thing I advise is to angle on a pressure point as you go down. So if she pushed, I catch. Doesn't that look the same as in the kata? I catch it and I let this cut at that pressure point. Well, when the hand's in that position, we do that pressure point, the person goes down. If the pressure point work is right and it's proper, it works on a larger person. Now I know Sandy is smaller than I, but Ron is not. He's larger. And it always works on larger people. In my particular art, Sandy is very good at this. In my particular art, if Sandy can't do the moves on a man at 6'2", we scrap the move and we don't use it. I'm going to show you what makes a pressure point a pressure point. That's what's really important. What makes a pressure point a pressure point? You know, I read a lot of acupuncture books and they all have their own theories. You'll even read in one acupuncture book where the points vary from person to person, or they don't know where to find them, but they know they work. I help you find them because I know where they are and how they work, and I try to educate people in my study. You have the ulnar nerve that lies down the outside of the arm. The ulnar nerve. You have the medial nerve that goes down the center of the arm. You have the radial nerve that's here. And if you look in a book of Gray's Anatomy or any body book, you'll see there is a cross line here, here, and here that connect the three nerves together. If you bang or do something to this bone, the message has to get back to the body, and if this nerve were injured, that you would pull your arm away, the nerve will be carried, on the medial nerve will carry that message. So what makes this a true pressure point is that it is a junction. There is a cross line here, a cross line here, and a cross line there, connecting the three nerves of the arm, so that when you bump something or touch something, it'll shock you. Well, that's what we use, that juncture. We get in on that juncture. So in essence, a pressure point is a place, I describe it this way, a place to enter pain into the arm. Everyone knows the crazy bone, that's a pressure point. Everyone's been banged on the crazy bone. That's a cluster nerve in there, little cluster of nerves, and when you bang it, it adds shock to the arm. So pressure points are a cross or a juncture of nerves, and or a nerve ending. And or, in this case, a little hair-like that comes off of the radial nerve under the muscle and surfaces right here because the inside of the arm is so weak and needs protection. And right here are four little pressure points. But they actually control that opposite leg on that side of the body. And we'll get more into that on my advanced tapes on this subject. But you have to understand what makes a pressure point at its basic before you can get into advanced. I enter the pain here, here, and here into that nerve. She's frail little female. If I am not on a pressure point, you will not bend the wrist. That's what you have to experiment with. And that's why you have to know. I'm not on a pressure point. Pressure point is the juncture right here. And it has nothing to do with this little bone. Everybody has this knobby bone. It has nothing to do with that bone. That bone can be all the way up here and the pressure point is still 1/2 inch away from your wrist. I'm not on a pressure point and I try to bend her wrist and it does not work. And yet I'm on the nerve. So some people have said, well, he's using the nerve, using the ulnar nerve. That's wrong. I am using the ulnar nerve, but I'm using it at a junction that will send that pain to the other nerves of the arm and will stop the energy. A pressure point can do several things. It can send a message in the nerve, which is an electrical message and shot very fast, and it also can stop the energy that controls something. We have a pressure point that controls the elbow, the wrist, the fingers, the shoulder, even the hips. I was with a Chinese man that took pressure points and completely moved the person's hip around and put it back in place. These pressure points control every joint in the body. So we use those pressure points against our opponent to attack a given area. So if you don't know that that's that pressure point, you won't understand it, and you won't be able to do even that little technique of bending the wrist. Okay, step. The common moves in a kata, Ron, come back up. The common moves in a kata that I'd like to break down and give you, I have showed you this move. This is a move that everybody does. I always say to somebody, you're going to use this move in a in fighting at a tournament? And they say no. I said, what's an kata for? They say it's blocking a kick. You really think a samurai decided to block a kick like that? Or did he do like you did, blocked it with the legs and the arms and countered back at you with the hands? If I kick at Ron and he blocks like that, which he knows better, his face is going to be open for an attack, and he knows that. And even drawing it out. Some styles take it way out here, way out, and do this. Get a long stance. Get a long stance. What good is that? What good would this be to block a kick when you couldn't get the hands back up to protect? We've all read that there's grappling contained in kata. Grappling, which means the samurai understood attacking a person, whether he punched you, kicked you, or grabbed you. Person grabs you, the kata works. If he punches you, that movement of kata works. If Ron grabs that arm, all I have to do is cock this hand down, put this bone, which I use, a lot of the times I use this bone as a weapon. There's a karate book out by a famous master that says, on a fist, there's 10 weapons. And only the most basic of them are the fist. Everybody thinks hit with the fist. In this particular arm, we use this knuckle. We use that knuckle. We use that knuckle. We use that knuckle, and we use these knuckles. That has to be in the art. The fist is there. It looks like a fist, but I don't have to be using the fist. I use this bone a lot in grappling because if he grabs, I can lock with that pressure point that will put him out like this or put him up. That's why you have the moves in a kata that usually go like that. Because if a person grabs, you can trap him very quickly. Very quickly. Pull back here. We use that move to break a leg. That move, aim down here, somewhere in the translation it might have been lost because maybe that serviceman after World War II. You got to remember that if Russia had come over here and bombed our country and were patrolling our streets in tanks and come up here to study the martial arts and said, could I study karate? I'd say, yes, come on in. Do knuckle push-ups. Do a bunch of sit-ups. Block, block, punch, punch, block, block. Keep your fist shut. That's so they wouldn't understand that the fingertips are more important than the fist. And we wouldn't teach those people any secrets. Or if we did, there'd be that lack of translation of language anyway. I don't speak that language. I have no desire to. As they do that, maybe that person said, what's this for? Maybe he said for leg, and just ended it there, just maybe. It's only my theory. Maybe he said for leg, and the servicemen come back and thought, must be blocking a kick, must be for leg. He grabs me, it's for the leg, because when I do this, it raises my opponent up. Get a good tight arm. I do this, it raises him up that I can break his leg. If you put the camera on the leg, you'll see that he goes up to his toes, and at this point, if I kick either one of the legs, the weight from the upper half of his body is what breaks his leg. If you know anything about injuring somebody in the leg, to break or injure, you don't always say break because maybe it doesn't happen. But if you can get your opponent up on his tippy toes and just kick his feet, even if he's a person larger than you, it works. So this technique, if you grab, can be used on that nerve, and that's what that could be in a kata for. That's another meaning for grappling. We use another move. A lot of styles do this and call this an up block. An up block. An up block. My theory is that this is the weakest part of the body. No way was this a block 1,000 years ago, and no way is it a block today. However, I'm going to cover up because I do call it a block in my class. Or I say block here, block there. because the white belts, I even feel, should get these arm pressure points. I've changed my whole way of thinking, and these pressure points are valuable to everybody, especially the ones I'm showing. These are baby ones. These are ones I teach to the children's class. We teach the children the arm points, because this particular arm point numbs the arm, and it can keep Johnny out of trouble. We had one of the kids in the kids' class, a bully was picking on him at school, and he hit him on this arm point and numbed the kid's arm until the teacher and the principal and everybody got involved. It went away. The numbness lasts 20 minutes, it goes away. It's temporary paralyzation of the arm on that pressure point. Had he not known that pressure point, he would have punched him in the face, and there could have been dental bills, or teeth broken, or hands cut on the teeth, or face damage. There could have been lawsuits, there could have been all kinds of trouble. So the pressure points are important for children, for everybody, and that's why I show these pressure points. This particular move is a pressure point that lies right behind the elbow, right here. 1 inch behind the elbow joint, dead center, is a pressure point. As you get involved in your study, you will find out that we have hit points and we have push points. A push point cannot be hit. A hit point cannot be pushed. So as you get involved in your study, I will refer to pushing it or hitting it. This is a push point. So that I don't numb this arm, I'm going to reverse him back and use his other arm to demonstrate. But move this up. Get a little bend on the elbow. I see books and magazines and they tell me strike the person at the elbow with the bone or with this, or smash him so hard you break the elbow. It's almost impossible to break anyone's elbow smashing at the joint. Take anyone you know and tell him to get a little resistance and do this and try to bend his elbow, and because of that bone, no way am I going to smash it with my arm. 1 inch here is a push point that will release the elbow's energy. But it needs this. It needs pushed. It doesn't need hit. Now you watch, because I'm going to hit it hard, and I do this in my demos. You can do this, you watch how you hit, but I will hit right on that point. You resist, don't let me bend it, and I strike. Now don't go anywhere. And that's decently hard, and he doesn't like that, but what else can he do about it? It's my student. If he don't like that, we kill him with it. The push point is here. The red mark that I've been hitting. It's 1 inch back, and it needs vibrated. It needs rolled like a rolling pin. I get on it, look. Okay. And that's just this. Rolled like a rolling pin. Now I'm going to go over to the good arm, because that arm gets weak playing with that. It's numb. But I want to go to the good arm and show you that it's here, and how this is an arm break. I've read in books this is an arm break, but no one would ever tell me how, and I had a hard time figuring it out. And a lot of other people did. That's why they said block. Block. But why would you block with the weakest part of the body? If I cut you right here, you couldn't walk 2 blocks without bleeding to death. It's the weakest part of the body. Blocking should be with the muscle. Blocking should be with the muscle. Not the weak part of the body, and not the smallest bone of the body. Blocking should be 2 bones. I can block and hit with 2 bones at the same time. This bone is the smallest bone of the arm and brittle and can break. Why would you block with it towards your opponent, especially a samurai who might have somebody hit him with a bow staff or a weapon? The smallest bone of the arm will break. This bone takes about 3 times more strength to break than that one, and you put it on the inside. But together, They take 15 times more power to break, both simultaneously, making it almost impossible, not totally impossible, but almost impossible to break them both at the same time. 15 times more than that, the biggest bone, to break them both together. Because you should two-bone block and protect yourself and two-bone strike. So what could this move be for with the smallest bone out and the weakest section of the body of my opponent? Especially today. Do you know how many people out there wear big watches, gaudy watches, great big rings, jewelry? They punch at you, you go to block like that. And then I've had people say, well, I wouldn't use that block if somebody had all this jewelry on. You can't practice for 20 years as a block and not spring into it automatically. That's a grappling move. If somebody grabs you, or you grab his arm. And what it does is you should really, if you can grab, now if he has you, you hold him, and you go to this pressure point that needs roll. I showed you where it's at, 1 inch behind. You get with the biggest bone of the arm, and you start to roll like that. And if I do like in the kata and go like that, that hand pulled back to my hip, his wrist. And that hand went from this side of my body to this side of my body, as in the kata, I would go from this side of my body over to here using his body weight to break his arm, because as I roll on that, it releases it. And as it releases it, this hand would push down, giving me a two-way action. Two-way action is a very important part of grappling. If I get on this pressure point, I want to push two-way action, this way and this way. Here is just a little larger two-way action, and that springs down and goes up. And you have to be very careful here because you could injure the arm. When you roll in this point, you injure the arm. That is a push point. We have hit points, we have push points. This particular point that I showed you is a hit point that opens the hand. This particular point is a hit point that drops the knees. This particular point is a hit point. This particular point is a hit point. This particular point is a push point. And a lot of people have found this one by accident. Because when somebody grabs you and you grab his wrist in self-defense, you automatically go for the person's wrist. But as I explained earlier, if you don't know that it's a true pressure point, you might miss it and not be on it. So much for the grappling portion. I want to get you into something that I found on the punching portion. I'm going to get all three students out to line up at this point. Put Ron in the middle. Okay, get in a horse stance. Put the left hand out in punch position. When you punch, there are a lot of schools that do a full twist punch. You must remember, I am trying to bring out a fighting portion of karate. There's a fighting portion and there is a sport. If you read any of the books, you will read that in 1906, they took karate into the school district in Okinawa. They were told to water it down. Prior to that time, there were samurai that would kill people with just one shot or a particular move. And when they watered it down, they went to a full twist punch. Now you can either believe that or not believe that. You've also read that there are secrets in karate. If you belong to a school that does a full twist punch, I don't say to say that's wrong, because it's not wrong. It's a sport version. My version, my theory, is that it shouldn't be a full twist punch. The full twist punch was sent into the school district. What happened, you can read in the same books that in that same era, there were maybe 5, 10 good samurai in Okinawa that would kill with touches. They got together and read it in the books and told one to water it down to put it for school kids. Watered down was a full twist punch. They didn't understand or realize, though, that out of the school district was going to come thousands of people as black belts who would go out and make thousands and thousands more of black belts. And it got out of hand, this samurai art. I have been studying this. I have researched this with several masters. I have been behind closed doors with people that would talk to me and won't talk to you about this. I have a man's notes on this subject that make all of this very clear. A 3/4 inch punch is what is needed in the martial arts by anybody that wants to hurt someone. If you can give me any reasons, you write to me, call me, or stop at my karate school if you have a good reason for a full twist punch, a real good reason. The only reason I've been able to get is that it is traditional. 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 Traditional out of the school system. Not traditional to hurt. This, a full twist punch, traditional, enters your energy into the person's body, hui. There is not one pressure point in your opponent that I know of that you can attack with a full twist punch and hurt him. Not one. I am into pressure points, angle and direction, and with a full twist punch, you cannot even injure anybody unless you're very strong. Now don't give me a real strong person against a little person. But what I'm saying is, even the masters behind closed doors, and I've asked them, I say, do you believe in a 3/4 inch punch? And they say yes. And I say, why don't you teach it? And they say, well, geez, there's so many students doing it that way, we just leave it go. It's too hard to correct all over the world. If you did nothing more from this tape than learn this, you'd learn how to hit somebody harder and better, I feel. Now, some people out there are using this or know it's a secret. Not a vertical, not a full twist, 3/4 is the answer. Even Isshinryu style uses a vertical. That's the closest. But I want to explain this. I have been to a muscle specialist, so I'm not telling you this comes from the martial arts as tradition. I'm telling you, talk to a doctor that studies muscles. Now I'm telling you, talk to a doctor that studies bones. I have a complete study from the University of Virginia, skeletons and bone structure and muscle structure. 3/4 is more natural. How do you drive a car? You hold the steering wheel like this. You don't drive this way. You don't put your hands in your lap this way because it's uncomfortable. Your energy doesn't release. You put your hands on the sides of your lap. You hold the steering wheel this way. The Isshinryu that I told you about, he says vertical, but on his tape they're selling, and that's only one visual that you might have. I have others. I have tapes of masters from China, from Okinawa, from Japan, videotapes. I have movies, I have books, I have notes, I have collections, I have a study. I've been studying this for 30 years. But even the Isshinryu man hits, but then he goes to the 3/4. I never asked him about that, but I'm just giving that as one explanation. The ribs are shaped like this. The solar plex is hidden in the middle of that V. If this is someone's rib cage, a full twist punch overlaps ribs on both sides. I can hit him in the solar plex and the vibration he feels. But I don't get A 3/4 inch punch takes out one rib. The ribs are circular like this. I can do this and get on one rib. If I'm going to break a rib, that will do it. I don't know what pressure point I can hit. You can't hit somebody in the forehead without bending your wrist. Everyone's chest is shaped like this, forward. You can't even punch a person in the chest without bending your wrist with a full twist punch. You try to hit somebody here. Only place maybe is there, but then this hits first. Just try it. A 3/4 inch punch allows a little person to hit the biggest person with just those two knuckles. Your wrist is not made to bend this way. If I hit him and this happens, sprained or broken wrist. He hits me, this happens, he's in trouble. Your wrist is not made to bend this way. It's made to bend this way, and cocked down like that puts the strongest bone in the arm. The energy that I explained earlier, if you punch properly, as if you were holding a glass of water and wanted to splash it on your opponent, that's the way you should hit. And your energy then, rather than come back your arm, splashes into your opponent. And during the advanced tapes, you will hear me refer to energy transfer. I teach someone how to take their energy and transfer it into their opponent's pressure point for maximum effect. 3/4 inch punch will break a rib, and this will not. 3/4 inch punch will get into the solar plex. This will not. 3/4 inch punch, I can strike him all over the body and or punch the legs. If he went to kick, I can just take the kick, and 3/4 inch punch is going to stop the kick, where a full twist punch will not. I can strike here, 3/4, here, all over that body with a 3/4 inch punch and strike. So that is one of the secrets. A lot of people use the 3/4, but I want to give you the reasons why. One of the reasons why we use the 3/4 inch punch. Sandy, come over here. A full twist punch. This is the large bone of the arm. This is the small bone of the arm. A full twist punch has those two bones crisscrossed. Don't ask a karate person, ask a bone doctor, ask a muscle specialist, and on some of my stuff, ask a nerve doctor. The full twist punch actually has the bones crisscrossed. Now, which way can you hurt somebody with two bones like this, striking, or two bones in line striking? A vertical punch is close to the answer. But in picture work from skeletons, the bones, because a vertical punch, the large bone comes from that side, your opponent's right side, and this little bone comes from the left side. The two bones are not, on a vertical, not totally aligned. They're not totally on top of each other, where just a little action like that puts the bones directly on top of each other from that angle, so that you are hitting with two bones head on. If they take a battering ram to knock down a fort, they take a battering ram and they take it straight in. They don't bring it in on an angle. A full twist punch puts the both bones crisscrossed and creates a weak spot right here that's non-existent. When the arm is here, you can't hit somebody in that muscle and do damage. That's a muscle group to protect the arm. But when they crisscross their punch, there's a weak spot right there that'll hurt your person or put him down and or break bone, because the bones are crisscrossed. The muscle right here on a full twist punch exposes this pressure point. And as long as that pressure point is exposed, I can control the energy for the entire arm and hurt the arm. When you do a 3/4 inch punch, the muscle rolls over that pressure point so that it makes it harder to get to. It's not totally out of the way, but it makes it harder to get to because the muscle rolls down over it, and that's one of the reasons a 3/4 inch punch is important. Another reason a 3/4 inch punch is important is because on a full twist punch, your energy, just like wringing out a towel, you got a wet towel at the beach and you wring it out, this wrings out the muscle right here. A full twist punch twists the muscle here and actually stops her energy here that I can hurt her easier or hurt a bigger person easier. The energy twisting stops the energy in this section of the arm. You could not get energy transfer into your opponent. We take and keep the punch 3/4 because the energy continues to flow as a natural move, and that's why the arm is shaped the way the arm is shaped. A little experiment that I do, just to prove that, she has a full twist punch. You can do this with anyone. As long as they're in a full twist punch, the energy stops here, and especially if they just did it. You can bend their elbow. I'm going to bend her elbow. Now she knows she resisted. I felt the muscle tighten up. But I bend the elbow, and with a full twist punch, you can take anyone and just bend the elbow because the energy has cut off here. Where a 3/4 inch punch, 3/4 inch punch allows the energy to come straight out into your opponent. And then you try to bend the elbow and you won't get it. Some arts call that the unbendable arm, where in a way I say it's a little trickery. It's just muscle alignment. When you do the full twist punch, you bend anybody. He won't do an unbendable arm. Fingers open, fingers shut. He won't do an unbendable arm with a full twist because the bones are crossed, the energy is stopped here. But when it's this way, fingers open or fingers shut, then you will not bend that arm. You will not bend that arm. So you have energy continuation with a 3/4 inch punch. You don't want to lose the energy here. You have a weak spot covered up. Another weak spot that you don't create, and a wrist that can take a shot that way and will not take it that way. Will not. This will happen every time. If you can give me that many reasons on why a full twist punch, I would like to hear them, because I'm doing quite a study on that, muscles, and pressure points. And as we close in this video, I want to thank Sandra Schlesman, who is one of our black belts at the Dilllman Karate Institute, for helping. We have Ron Richards, and we have a white belt with us that we're going to have in the other tapes, and her name is Pat Kosmosky, and she's helping out with the video work today. And we have filming done by Eric Reebsing. He's going in the United States Army. He's one of our students, and we're sorry to lose him, so I want to just get that in on the video. And thank you. Do I line up? Get the 3/4 inch punch out, the left hand.
Good evening, everybody. I'm George Michael, and welcome to the Sports Machine. Tonight, through the use of the Sports Machine, an amazing winning streak comes to end in tennis for Martina Navratilova. A man named Pete Rose. He continues to win his race against the clock. USFL champions will return to defend their title this year. And tonight, the ancient art of karate and a man who has mastered it with a flair for the unbelievable and the dramatic. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Nice to have you with us tonight. I've been going through the dictionary trying to... Karate, the ancient art of self-discipline and self-defense. It's always fascinated me, and I guess that judging by the crowds that flock to see every new Chuck Norris movie, most people are as fascinated as I am by these talented and skilled people. Now, Reading, Pennsylvania is a long way from Hollywood, but there's a man who lives in Reading by the name of George Dillman. He is indeed a real-life Bruce Lee. To introduce you this unique man, let's go to Reading, Pennsylvania, and George Dillman.
It's like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I have to totally leave what I call reality, and I become another person. I just go crazy. I go into a trance. I go into another world, and it's the same kind of trance you would have to get in if you were in a fight situation.
The knee is used defensively to block against kicks. Someone kicks at you, we use the legs to stop it, so we can counteract with the hands.
George Dillman, black belt karate expert. A tension exercise shows his students that the body can break unbreakable objects. And the body can bear unbearable pain.
There are 500 acupressure points in the body or acupuncture points that an acupuncturist can put needles. Well, when they put the needle this way, that might heal or soothe. But when I come in the other way, it causes damage, it causes pain. And with that, with the fingertips, I can actually knock people out. Okay. Let me at him.
To be a student of George Dillman, as witness here, one must completely trust this black belt karate expert. In fact, Dillman contends that if a good boxer were to study under him, he'd be a world champion.
If I were to work with Jerry Cooney, he would beat Larry Holmes. If I would have worked with Thomas Hearns, he would have beat Marvelous Hagler. It's just that simple. He would have to believe me, he would have to trust me, and he would have to spend 2 months in a ring with me to get these points. And at that point, he could take anybody, and I could reverse boxing history.
The most dramatic aspect of a Dillman demonstration comes when he prepares to slice 2 watermelons in half with a razor-sharp sword while blindfolded.
I build a mental picture of everything that's going on out there, and then with the years of practice that I've had with that sword doing what we call kata, or forms, I know that the blade is going to be on target. I just have to get a mental picture of where the watermelons are.
Dillman and his students are world famous for their breaking skills. Dillman breaking as much as 1,200 pounds of ice with his bare elbow.
Breaking is a show portion of karate. We jump up and break wood, we break boards, the public likes to see it, but we only do that once or twice in a year. The real study of karate is this inner peace that you get.
Relax. Cross the feet.
Would he want an aspirin at this time, or?
He might get a headache from that. It's really weird when you get knocked out in that manner. This can happen to anyone, any size, The bigger the person's body, large-wise. For instance, I knocked out a man who was a 250, 60-pound man, big, 6'4". He goes easier than a littler person.
Now those were...
Because the pressure points are bigger.
I'm going to say, those are pressure points in the neck, not so much force.
But the person loses his motor drive. You completely lose your sense. If I would leave him lay there, he's good for 20 minutes, and I have another part that I can hit, and he'll stay there for 4 hours without moving, yet I've done no damage to him.
Thank you, George Dillman, for that demonstration. And kids at home, don't ever try that. You leave that to the experts.
To get myself into the psych, which what we do, we learn to turn ourselves off and on like a faucet and get into a trance. The same type of trance you'd have to get into in a self-defense situation. I will break a board over my own head, have a cement broke over my body, and then try to crash to the ice.
George, good luck.
Thank you. Hold tight. I want those. Keep them little ones.
Those of you who know me, I am seldom at a loss for words, but I don't know what to say about this. All right.
Welcome to Real People.
Tonight, from NBC in Burbank, with videotape and filmed inserts from practically every place else, NBC presents Real People. We'll see an astounding exhibition which includes some amazing feats and some amazing hands, too.
No, Byron, our next story is about karate. Now, a lot of people are taking up karate lately for self-defense. In fact, to tell you the truth, I've taken a few lessons myself.
Oh, yeah, Skip? Sure. Oh, tell me this. What do you do when suddenly a man points a gun at you and says, okay, give me all your money? What do you do, Skip?
A gun? Oh, that's easy. That's easy. What you do is, first of all, you got to tense up all your muscles and take a stance. And you go like this, so you get in your stance.
Yeah.
So you're protecting yourself. Okay. Then you take your right hand, slowly move it back here to your pocket. Put your hand in your pocket and give him all the money you've got.
The guy I saw do karate didn't do it like that, Skip. He did it like this.
This is Reading, Pennsylvania, the home of Mr. and Mrs. George Dillman. George isn't your average citizen. He teaches karate.
Okay, get the back straight.
And this is the world of martial arts champion George Dillman. George instructs his 250 students in the finer points of karate, kata, kung fu, and kicking. George believes that some of these boys and girls will be the future greats of the martial arts world. And he ought to know, having worked and fought with such people as the late great Bruce Lee and the still great Muhammad Ali. He even made it into Ripley by wrestling a 350-pound bear. His walls and studios are filled with some of the 300 trophies he has won in 20 years of competition. But is karate for everyone?
people come in and say, well, do I have to get to be a black belt? Do I have to work out every day? No, they can study 1 time a week and learn enough to defend themselves. An elderly person can learn enough to use their handbag properly, their umbrella, anything for self-defense. Because with the growing crime situation in this country, self-defense is important for everyone. And in our children's class, we have little girls that study because their parents want them to learn not only self-defense, but just proper coordination. The type of coordination that we teach, they don't get through other sports. That's better.
George continues to compete and give demonstrations of his power and skill. Even his pet cougar shares his training room. George is ably assisted by his wife, Kim, who is herself a martial arts champion. She also trains with George to keep him in the peak of condition. But this isn't all he does. This is. And it is why these high school students have come to see George and his students put on a demonstration of speed, skill, and surprise. And they aren't going to be disappointed.
The locals probably think I'm crazy. I do that to get across that feat, that it's the mind and the body, and that I can do it. I can't tell people I can do it unless I get out and show it. When I'm going to do my ice break, I see that ice breaking even sometimes the night before my sleep. I get psyched for that. I actually see the ice breaking before it breaks.
Some of that again. Is there something here that I can, I want to be up close and see this. What do I do with this?
Just you're going to hold this.
Yeah.
And in karate, we show that you use the internal muscle, the external muscle.
Yeah.
And try to hit with the weight of the body on contact.
Oh, no! Wow! I'm glad that wasn't a foot higher. Do some of that for her. Show her something.
Yeah, I'd like to see something. Well, don't. For heaven's sake.
Do something about it. Show us what you do.
Oh! That is all right. All right. I like that.
Oh.
Very good. Hey.
Yeah?
Hey, Skip. I'll have a surprise for you after the commercial.
Really? You're going to take me down to the Xerox machine, are you?
No.
And I'm Larry Angelo. This evening, we're at the Pennsylvania Farm Museum of Landis Valley. That's in Lancaster, PA. Neat place.
That's right. It's a wonderful place to be on a Friday, and it's a wonderful place to be on the weekend and to take your kids. It's a recreation of 2 centuries of Pennsylvania farmland houses and an area. And, well, I've been trying to get Larry to play in the leaves with me all day, but he just won't.
Well, the kids have taken over the grounds. We'll be talking more about some of the events coming up this weekend in this area. But what's coming up on this evening's magazine?
Well, first we're going to visit with Elizabeth Taylor. Now, everybody knows that she was a famous child star, and we've watched her grow up. We've watched her go through many husbands, and now we see her playing a different kind of role as wife to politician John Warner.
Later in this evening's show, we'll be traveling to an area not far from here, to Reading, to visit a karate couple. George and Kim Dillman have been involved in so many amazing feats. They're included in Ripley's Believe It or Not, and George will be splitting 1,000 pounds of ice with his elbow. We're in Lancaster right now, but not too far from here in Reading, there lives a legendary couple, George and Kim Dillman. They're known as the Karate Couple because of all of the amazing feats that they've been involved with. And this evening, George is going to attempt to crack 1,000 pounds of ice with his elbow. Good luck, George. This may look like the Orient, but it's really Reading, PA. And for newlywed couple George and Kim Dillman, this is home. George runs a karate school, and Kim teaches English at a local high school. But what catches your attention immediately is that this honeymoon couple have to be careful when saying hello. Don't worry about Kim. As you'll see later on, she can take care of herself. It's not unusual for newlyweds to go out to dinner, but when the Dillmans step out, they do simple things in their own unique way.
As a newly married bride, one married to George Dillman, there's a lot of excitement involved. At times there's a lot of glamour involved. But most of the time, George is really a home person. In the school, we are student and teacher. And naturally, there must be limits set, and there must be respect shown. But at home, we're buddies, we're pals, we're companions, and we're lovers. And again, there's a dichotomy. There has to be a distinction between public life and home life.
The throat, solar plex, and the groin. Ready? Come in again. Again. And the same move with the leg technique. My wedding will probably be covered by Ripley's Believe It or Not cartoon. I've been featured 4 times in the Ripley's Believe It or Not cartoons for various stunts. I broke ice, cut watermelons blindfolded, and Ripley's wants to do a cartoon on my wedding. At my wedding ceremony, I cut an apple off of Kimberly's head while blindfolded at the wedding ceremony. We got married in our karate suits. I love my wife, and it shows that she has a great deal of trust in me. And the newspaper covered it that there was a lot of love and a devotion involved, or she would not have sit down and put an apple on her head knowing that I'm blindfolded. She's very fast with her hands and her feet, and she throws punches and kicks at my head and body almost with full force, stopping a split second before touching, just a fraction of an inch away from contact with a vital spot. And I trust her when she does moves like that on me.
George and Kim are a loving couple, but after a respectful bow, things get rough.
Fighting him gets me into a bind sometimes. I think there's a little bit of fear involved. I think naturally there's a little bit of competitiveness involved, being husband and wife. And many oftentimes, I try to stay away from it simply because it does put both of us into a bind. I do like to work out with him. I do like to learn from him. Otherwise, I could not perfect my skills that I need to help my students perfect theirs. I can punch a bag, or I can hit the air, or I can come in and I can scream at the top of my lungs to help me get rid of some of the aggravations that go along with the teaching profession. It also gives me an opportunity to relax, to to, you know, do something recreational.
We asked George to show us why he's included in Ripley's Believe It or Not, so he demonstrated how he cracks a half ton of ice with his elbow. Believe it or not.